Welcome to the CMS CERT ABMAC Outreach and Education Task Force webinar. I'm Mary Mucko. I'm a member of the Provider Outreach and Education team at WPS, and I will be your host today. I'm joined by my friend and colleague, Bailey Lawson, who will help with technical problems and issues. She'll do some troubleshooting behind the scenes, and she'll be monitoring the questions that you place into the chat. Finally, before we start, remember please to review the disclaimers that I have placed at the end of the PowerPoint presentation. It is in the notes view of the slide deck that provides those details that you should be aware of. The information in today's webinar is subject to change. So the disclaimer talks a little bit about that fact, and it also talks about the fact that CMS prohibits recording of this presentation for profit-making purposes. So we do ask you to refrain from doing any screenshots or recording of any kind. Here is the objective and agenda for today. Today, my goal is to help you learn about the role of the CMS Comprehensive Error Rate Testing, or CERT, ABMAC, and MAC stands for Medicare Administrative Contractor, Outreach and Education Task Force, and the task force role in reducing the national paid claims error rate. Now, as you can see on this slide, which happens to match the webinar description available when you registered, I'm going to define the purpose of that task force, explain how the task force accomplishes their tasks, and demonstrate where you can find the publications that CMS has published due to the efforts of the task force. Now, one of my colleagues and I are both members of this task force. I do want to encourage you to add questions and comments in the chat as we go. I will answer them after my prepared remarks as time permits. So let's begin then with the purpose for CERT, Comprehensive Error Rate Testing, and the CERT Task Force. Now, to understand the role of the task force, one must understand the CERT program. CERT is an acronym for Comprehensive Error Rate Testing. This is a CMS initiative that involves medical review of claims and documentation to measure the national improper payment rate. The claims reviewed by the CERT contractor, not the MAC, not WPS, include both Part A and Part B fee-for-service claims, and this does include claims processed by the Durable Medical Equipment MACs. The CERT contractor reviews a sampling of claims and determines if Medicare properly paid based on coverage, coding, and payment rules for Medicare. Improper payment can take the form of both an overpayment and an underpayment. There are 5 major categories of errors. They are no documentation. That means when no documentation is returned, when there is a request sent out by the CERT review contractor. Insufficient documentation is another error category, one of the 5 main categories. Also incorrect coding, which really equates to upcoding or downcoding. And there's also those claims that don't meet medical necessity. That's another main error category. And then there are those that fall into that category that's called other. Now, just recently, I held a webinar that provided a brief overview of the CERT program. You can find a recording on our Encore Presentations webpage, and it's also out on our YouTube channel. The name of that video, if you go looking for it, is Encore Comprehensive Error Rate Testing CERT Program, The Basics. So why is MAC CERT education so important to providers? It is both CMS and MACs who produce CERT education to help improve providers' billing practices and, of course, reduce payment errors, thereby reducing that national improper paid claims rate, which is published yearly and reported to Congress and the President. It can be said then that the task force goal is to ensure consistent communication across the entire provider community in order to reduce the national improper paid claims rate. Now, simply put, the task force goal is to identify and maintain CERT educational products in order to help reach the CMS goal. That goal decreases each year. Now, CMS publishes its CERT report on a yearly basis, and the most recently published report is for the 2024 report year, which includes claims that were submitted during the 12-month period from July 1 of 2022 through June 30 of 2023. Now, CMS typically releases that CERT report each November. However, based on my checking just a couple of days ago, the 2025 report year has not been published yet. It has been delayed. The improper payment rate for 2024 CERT report year is 7.66%, resulting in improper payments that are estimated to be $31.7 billion. So how does the task force then accomplish their tasks? The task force meets monthly to review the existing products out on the CMS webpage dedicated to the task force, and also to look at the need for any change. We also monitor CMS video views in order to determine if the provider community is aware of them and if they're watching them. Now, during each meeting, we also consider new agenda items that are listed on the agenda. The team lead reaches out to all of the task force members and asks, is there anything new happening at your MAC that you'd like to place on the agenda? Is there a need for a nationally published education product? We also determine the need to promote the existing CMS CERT educational products that are listed out on the CMS CERT AB MAC Task Force webpage, and we'll be taking a look at that in just a minute. Now, those products that are on that webpage are the result of the efforts of this work group or task force, and they're actually branded with the task force's logo. And here it is. Here is that task force logo, or the logo that will identify any of those products that are a result of the collaboration of CMS's MACs, those that are members of the task force, and then of course CMS itself. CMS really does participate in these meetings. They're actively participating with us, along with us, letting us know or asking us, does this need to be updated? Does this need to be more clear? Should there be a new resource published on the task force webpage to address some of those new agenda topics that the MACs are bringing to this meeting each month? So here is the logo. I do want to point out that there is also a DME, or a Durable Medical Equipment MAC Outreach and Education Task Force as well. Some of their members attend our meetings and vice versa. Their logo looks very similar to the one that you're seeing right now on this slide. That is the CERT AB MAX Outreach and Education logo, as opposed to the DME MAX logo. So I will point that logo out to you when we are live on the web page. So let's take a look at where you can find those CMS and task force co-branded publications. It is out on the CERT AB MAC Outreach and Education Task Force webpage that you will find those co-branded products as a result of this task force. Bailey is adding the link in the chat feature, but the link is also embedded in your presentation materials. If you look at the title on this particular slide, it reads the CERT AB MAC Outreach and Education Task Force webpage. I've actually embedded the link so that you could just simply click on that link and open it up when you're viewing the electronic version of your handout materials. And just scroll down that web page when it opens. It's taking just a moment here, folks. Bear with me. Here it is. I'm going to show you the actual website that I just opened. I just clicked on that embedded link on my slide here. This is the CERT AB MAX Outreach and Education Task Force webpage, and here is that logo that I was just talking about. It's kind of a dark green color. So if you see this logo on any CMS publication or resource, it means that the resource is based on that communication and collaboration of this particular work group and CMS. So as you can see by looking at the web page, it is currently divided into various sections titled Education Resources, Web-Based Training, Presentations, Events, and CERT videos. There's also links at the bottom of the page that are related links. This first one, the CERT C3 Hub, if you click on it, actually leaves the CMS website and takes you to the CERT provider website. And there's also a listing of fast facts that CMS has published. You can look at those by clicking on this second link. Now we're going to take a closer look at some of these sections of the CERT ABMAC Outreach and Education Task Force webpage. In just a moment. So back to the PowerPoint, where I have actually listed what you can find under each of those sections. The first section, of course, is that one that was education resources, and you can see a number of articles that are published there. These are co-branded CERT education resources. I am going to open the one that is called CERT Medical Records Respond Timely and show it to you so you can see. Oh, that's not the right one. This is the screen I want. You can actually see one of those products that's a result of these task force efforts. You'll see the CMS logo, and it's co-branded with the CERT ABMAC Task Force logo, the CERT ABMAC Task Force. This particular article is titled Comprehensive Error Rate Testing Medical Records Requests, Respond Timely. You can see that there are a number of links that are embedded. You'll see they're blue colored and underlined, or it looks like they're underlined. Those are actually links that are embedded within this educational resource. This actually includes a reference to the Social Security Act, some of the internet-only manual pages, specifically Chapter 12 of the Program Integrity Manual that talks about the CERT program and medical records, and more. Okay, so you can look to these educational resources for a number of some co-branded items. This is that article that I just opened. I wanted you to be able to come back to it after the webinar today. So I've actually embedded the link on this slide. And again, this is an example of that co-branded education, the one that I just showed you. There's additional items that appear on the web page, including web-based training, and currently there are no web-based trainings that are available. There's a presentation out there. It's actually a PowerPoint presentation that I want to say here. It really kind of talks about CERT 101 and what the task force is responsible for. I've opened it up here and I'll pull it over. So this is just another one of those great resources available. This one's specifically a presentation about the task force itself. How do we reduce improper payments? We collaborate on those national products, and then we provide support and denial rejection to both providers, and then of course providers and suppliers rather. And then of course we work with CMS to consistently or repeatedly, routinely, every now and then, it's scheduled, we review the existing items to see if there are updates needed or clarifications needed, and so on and so forth. So this talks about how the MAC contractors like WPS and the CERT contractor are different. You know, what is your role in the MAC's role? Or what's your MAC's role rather in the CERT review? Because remember, WPS isn't the CERT contractor. We don't review claims under the CERT program, but the CERT contractor does. And then they send the results of their review to us. And then we review the same records to see if we agree with their determination. You know, was there an overpayment or was there an underpayment? And then the MAC, of course, needs to adjudicate the claim or make the overpayment request. When I say adjudicate the claim, that would be to correct it based on the findings of the CERT contractor. Maybe there's an overpayment. In that case, the MAC would send that overpayment request letter out. Maybe there's an underpayment, or maybe the MAC thinks that missing documentation perhaps could be available, and we might even reach out to the provider to see if that documentation exists, because we want to reverse that CERT error. Okay, so a lot of things going on behind the scenes. Again, the webinar that I did earlier this month on the 4th of December talks a little bit more about that process. So this is just that presentation that I mentioned, most popular educational products, so on and so forth. Again, look for that co-branding, and you'll know it's the task force activities involved. Events, there are currently no events scheduled at this time, and CMS has actually produced a couple of CERT videos, Provider Minute utilizing your Mac, and there's another one called The Importance of Proper Documentation. Both great resources. If you are one of those providers who is tasked with training within your organization, go out to this page, pull some of these items, these resources, pull these videos up and take a look at them. This is just a sneak peek here of one of those videos. I particularly like this one. This is called Provider Minute, The Importance of Proper Documentation, and the link is embedded. So if you click on that link, it will open that video for you, and it's opened on my other screen. So I'm not going to play a whole lot of it. So again, just a great resource for you. That video runs, if you look at it down here at the bottom, a little over 6 minutes, but there's some really great information in there. Now, I talked with you how we meet with CMS and we review existing products. So every now and then CMS would ask us to take a look at this video. Does something need to be changed? And actually, this is a newer version of this Provider Minute, The Importance of Proper Documentation. It was updated just a short while ago. It's one of the newer resources made through the efforts of CMS and this task force. At this time, I'm going to throw this out to all of you. Do you have an idea for education that the task force can co-brand with CMS? Keeping in mind that our goal is to work with each other, all of the MACs, to develop those national education products about CERT, the CERT program, a specific CERT error, and so on and so forth. So sometimes some of our greatest tips on what we can provide in the future come from those survey comments that we receive from you. You'll be asked to complete a survey in just a couple of minutes. You can send it there, or you can send your idea for task force co-branded education to the email address on this slide. It's our education mailbox, wps.gha.education@wpsic.com. And if you would please, if you're sending an idea for CERT education, place CERT Task Force in that subject line, and the staff member that's monitoring that mailbox will send that right on over to those of us that participate in the CERT Task Force. We'd love to hear from you. Next up, before opening for questions, I do want to talk just a little bit about the annual Medicare participation announcement. We are including this information in all of our December education. As you plan for next year, CMS does remind you of the advantages of participating in Medicare. You can see those advantages in an announcement that CMS has published. I have linked to that announcement from this particular slide, or hyperlinked to it. By December 31 of this year, all physicians, practitioners, and suppliers, regardless of their Medicare participation status now, need to decide whether you're going to participate in calendar year 2026. And what I'm talking about here is not participating as a provider in Medicare, but participating by signing that agreement that you agree to accept assignment for all services, all covered services that are submitted to Medicare. Now, you don't need to do anything if you're already participating and you want to continue your participation, or if you're not currently participating and you don't want to participate. Now, you can refer to this resource, hyperlinked here, or embedded rather, here on this slide. And Bailey's also placing the link in the chat And this information that I just told you also appears in the notes section for this slide that is in your presentation materials. So instead of looking at the PowerPoint in the normal view, where you would actually see the slide, you would look at it in notes section, and you can change that up in the ribbon at the top of your screen. At this time, I excuse me, would be happy to entertain any questions that you have. There really were no questions that were submitted at the time that you registered, other than one person did indicate that she was looking for IRF information, and that is inpatient rehabilitation facility. And we don't have anything specific in this webinar today that relates to IRF, but there are resources available out on CMS's website. You just want to go out to CMS's website and search for IRF, either the acronym or spell it out. The acronym is a lot easier though. Bailey, do we have any questions at this time that pertain to any of the information that I've talked about today, the task force goals and activities?
There have not been any questions relating to the topic in the chat.
Thanks, Bailey. We'll continue on. I mentioned earlier that you will have the opportunity to complete a brief survey. We are really encouraging everyone, all learners, to tell us what you liked, what we could do better, and to suggest topics for future education. Your feedback is really invaluable. It does ensure that our education is timely and it's effective. There's different options for taking our survey depending on your preference. In fact, when you exit the webinar today, a pop-up box is going to appear. It's going to afford you an opportunity, one last opportunity to take that survey if you've not already done it. And I shouldn't say last opportunity, because you will receive links in an email so that you can complete that. Excuse me for just a moment. So back to the survey. The external site that you will be asked to visit is actually a CMS Qualtrics survey webpage. The message will look like what you see here on the right side of the slide. Yellow triangle at the top, blue button at the bottom. It's not malicious or anything. It is safe to click on that button and complete that survey. Excuse me. In a few minutes, you will receive an email to thank you for attending. Don't delete that without reading it if you would like continuing education units. This email actually contains verbiage that is your certificate of achievement. The email will come to you. It has your name on it, contact hours. It is that email that you'll need to turn in for credit towards continuing education units to that accrediting body of your choice. Now, if you don't get the email, make sure to add the WebEx email address to your safe sender list. It is messenger@webex.org, I believe. Bailey's placing that into the chat. Now, if you attended by phone today, in other words, you're not seeing my video presentation, you're just listening to me, you will receive an email that says, sorry, we missed you. And that's because WebEx doesn't know the telephone number that you called in from. If you need a certificate of achievement to submit to an accrediting body for CEUs, you can send us an email, include your 10-digit telephone number, today's date, the name of this webinar, and we'll be certain to send you an email with that certificate of achievement in the body of the email. It's not an attachment, it's just verbiage that appears in the body of that email. Now, if you think of any additional comments, you do have, or questions rather, you do have 7 days from today to submit them. Send all follow-up questions to wps.gha.education@wpsic.com. That is our education mailbox, not intended to use for submitting questions, only for those emails that pertain to our education. If you put in the subject line, CERT, we will be certain to recognize that it is follow-up from this webinar, and I will get back to you as soon as I can, either in an email directly to you, the learner, or I will create a list of questions and answers and send them to all of you. We are planning another Medicare Education Expo. It will be held on January 27 of 2026. I believe that the registration for that Medicare Education Expo, the theme is warm up to WPS departments. I believe that registration link went up this week on our live events webpage. So think about that. It's a day-long event with different sessions that you can individually register for and attend. It's going to provide details that really focus on the responsibilities of various departments at WPS, kind of why we do what we do. And also it will include some tips from those departments to just lighten your burden a little bit, answer some questions that might save you some time or some steps. So be sure to check that out if you have that date open. We of course will be recording all of those sessions if you can't attend that day or you can't attend all of them that you want to. Take a look at the live events webpage in order to register. Now, on behalf of Bailey and myself and all of Provider Outreach and Education, we do want to thank you for your participation. We know that you're all incredibly busy. Thank you for coming to our webinar today. We do look forward to those survey comments, and we hope to have you join us for future events. You may now disconnect from the webinar.